I've not had this much fun on an XC race bike in, well, ever, to be honest. This is a brand new Mondraker F-Podium RR, and it's their brand new XC race bike, an all-out pure XC race bike, but also with marathon and light trail bike applications as well. Got a full carbon frame, front, rear and a swing arm. Got 29-inch wheels, 100mm of travel front and rear, Fox dampers on this bike with a lockout option. Also got Shimano's brand new XTR 12-speed transmission and brakes, which I'll go into more detail in a bit. Got a rotor power meter included as well. All that will cost you €9,000, which is, yes, a lot of cash, but you are getting a power meter included, which a lot of bikes don't, and carbon DT Swiss wheels and some very nice top end kit. And on the scales, this bike weighs just 22 pounds, so it's going to give you a competitive edge on the climbs for sure. The first thing to talk about with this new bike is the geometry. Now, Mondraker, as I'm sure you're aware, have made their name with really progressive, really pushing the boat out there geometry, longer and slacker than most other brands are prepared to do. And they've taken that same approach with this new F-Podium. This is a size large, and the reach is a whopping 480mm. Now, that's long not only compared to other XC race bikes, but also many trail bikes as well. So that is really a headline figure on this bike. A couple of other important details. Got a 68-degree head angle. You've got a 60mm stem on this size, 50mm on the smaller bikes, and a 44mm offset fork. So the offset, the head angle, the short stem and the reach all combine to give both that stability at high speed, so really planted in high speed situations, but also the agility and the handling response from the short stem, wide bar and the offset and the fork. So you get the same sort of reach to the handlebar grips from the saddle as you would on a conventional XC race bike in terms of being comfortable on a long climb, so you're not all scrunched up. But when it comes to going down, you've got that kind of easy handling, fast steering that you want to get around tight corners and so on. So that is the geometry taken care of. You'll see it's a full carbon fibre frame. Got carbon for the front triangle, carbon for the rear triangle, and carbon for the main rocker linkage there. Mondraker has used its own zero suspension, kind of two short linkages, one down below the bottom bracket and this rocker linkage you can see here to control the suspension. It's based on their longer trail bikes, but they've tuned it for XC race applications as you would expect, and they've basically given it more anti-squat at the sag point. So when you're pedaling, it can be really efficient, give you the firm pedaling you need. Now you also get a lockout lever on this, controlling both the Fox rear shock and the 32 fork in the front. You can have it fully open, front and rear, or fully locked out. In open mode, the bike is really stable. You can leave it in open mode most of the time, even when you're attacking the climb out of saddle, because it's really efficient suspension, really quite firm, nice progression in there as well. And then you can lock it out if you're doing any smoother climbs. Now personally, I'd love to see a third option in there with a compression setting like you get on some bikes like the Scott Spark or the BMC 4-stroke. So you can go from open to slightly firmer and then locked out if you really need that. Now I know XC racers do use lockout, especially in the start of a race, but for non-racing applications a lockout is a bit redundant and I'd rather have a compression setting. But you can easily leave it in full open mode and not worry about it at all. The suspension takes care of itself, so you can just ride it in open and you're not going to be held back in any way at all. It's a really neatly finished frame. So you've got a full internal cable routing, as you can see there on either side of the down tube. Got a little bash guard on the down tube. There's a small mud guard flap on the back of the suspension linkage to protect the shock, which low down the frame from mud from the rear wheel. Got a really neat rear brake mount as well, like that. The disc brakes with post mount and 160mm rotors, 12mm rear axle, 15mm at the front. This is the second tier model, costs €9,000. And you get Fox 32 fork in the front, Fox rear damper, get carbon seat post, physique saddle, a carbon handlebar and a nice aluminium stem, Maxxis tyres, DT's very fine XRC 25mm carbon wheels. These beauties weigh 1400 grams, very light, definitely contribute to a low weight of this bike, which on the scales for this size large is 22 pounds, so yeah, right up there, or down there should I say, with the lightest XC race bikes you can buy. There's no dropper post on this model, which is personally something I would prefer to see. They do a down country version with a longer travel fork, 120 on the front and a dropper post. But having ridden that BMC 4-stroke with its integrated dropper post, I think there's scope for Mondraker to have done something a bit smarter here, really. I know a lot of XE racers are divided when it comes to dropper posts. Some top men and women are now using them and a lot aren't. Personally, I'd take a dropper post. Riding without a dropper post is really tricky. It's one of the things that's held me back on this bike. You get used to it, you do remind yourself that you can ride without dropping your post, but when you ride dropper post for the last decade or so, it becomes second nature, really. So I'd take the weight penalty off a dropper post and have that increased capability on descent, especially in non-racing trail riding mode, which is how I rode this bike for the most part, really. Perhaps the star of this bike is the brand new Shimano XTR 12-speed transmission with the 12-speed cassette on the back. You've also got a rotor power meter on the front as well, which is rare to see on a top-end race bike and does add to the value on this bike. All you have to do is add a battery on the non-drive side and you're ready to go. Connect it to your Wahoo or Garmin computer and you're ready to go. So we've got a Shimano XTR rear mech, new shifters and new brakes as well. The two-pot calipers, front and rear, 160mm rotor. It's a really good group set. It's Shimano's best group set. They finally caught up with SRAM. SRAM have really been leading the way with 1x and 12-speed and huge range cassettes, and Shimano finally brought out a group set to rival SRAM's offerings. And I think they've done a great job. The shifting quality is fantastic. The paddles are really light to press. There's no resistance there at all. Even after several weeks, a couple of months of riding through really gritty conditions and getting it all clagged up and jet washing it down, the shift quality is still really good. So the durability is there, the shift quality is just fantastic, really. The braking performance is excellent. You've got nice short ergonomic levers, plenty of power with one finger braking, lots of modulation as well, so you can apply braking as much or as little as you need in every situation. The lever feels good, perhaps not as smooth as some other brakes. You get a bit of lever travel sometimes during sustained braking, but for the most part I found them to be really reliable. Now when it comes to performance and ride and handling, that's what's really important here and probably why you're watching the video, to find out whether it's a bike you should buy and whether it's the bike for you. I've fallen in love with this bike, to be honest. There's a lot to like, there's a few things I dislike, but for the most part it's a really fun bike. As I said at the beginning, I've not had this much fun on an XE race bike in, well, ever. XE race bikes of old are nervous and twitchy and tight and compact and not much fun, to be honest. Great at going up, what it's designed for, being efficient and lightweight and stiff when you're pedaling up a climb. But as soon as you get to a descent, the fun part, the reward for that climbing, they're not much fun, dangerous almost in some situations and some experiences. This bike is anything but. It's very fast going up. You've got the low weight, 22 pounds. You've got a stiff frame, very efficient pedaling from that high anti-squat on the dual linkage suspension. So going up, it really looks after you. You can make great progress. Get loads of traction from the rear wheel. Suspension is very supple and active on the small stuff, so it really helps the rear tyre dig in over roots and rocks, and when it's slippery, plenty of traction there. So you get up climbs really well. When it comes to flat trails and going down, that's where the bike comes alive. You've got the long reach, a short stem, reasonably slack head angle for an XE race bike, and it just gives you, without wanting to use an overused phrase, it gives you more confidence on those descents. So rather than have to kind of hold back and adjust your speed and just kind of teeter down a steep descent, you can really let go on this bike. You can really absolutely hoon down descents like you would on a trail bike. You have the trail bike style geometry, so you can really carry speed through berms, over jumps and so on. And it's only really the suspension and the wafer thin tyres that hold you back when it gets really rowdy and technical. I mean, the suspension is very capable. The rear suspension in particular feels like there's more on offer there. It's really well controlled throughout a stroke, deals with big hits really well. If I was being fussy, I'd probably put the newer Fox 32 on the front, which is a bit stiffer. If I wasn't racing, which I don't, and I wanted a trail bike, which I've been using this one as, like very lightweight, rapid trail bike and marathon race bike, long distance, done a few 100-kilometre rides on this, no problem at all. I'd probably go for a 120 on the front, which they do with the down country version, just to give you a bit more capability in those bigger hits as well, slacken the geometry off a little bit, which wouldn't be a bad thing, but then that would slacken the seat angle, so that's a bit of a downside. But yeah, it doesn't hold you back on the descents at all. You can really carry a lot of speed. Now, races aren't won on the descents, but it can be lost on the descents, and especially if you're a nervous rider on descents, this bike will definitely give you a bit of an extra comfort zone to carry speed and not be dropped by people who are perhaps faster, better skilled on shorter, steeper bikes. So I think the big question now is whether this is an indication of where XC race bikes are going in the future with adopting trail bike progressive geometry, or whether it's a step too far for top level XC World Cup racers to embrace. To sum up, it's fast, super fast, very efficient pedaling. It handles really well, handles better than any other XC race bike I've ridden. You can use it like a lightweight trail bike basically. If you're used to a longer trail bike, you get on this and you feel right at home, and it's super fast everywhere. It's just a fantastic, phenomenally capable XC race bike that has a wider remit than just XC racing as well. Marathon, as I said, and trail riding, you can do long distance stuff on it and it really looks after you. You've got space for a bottle cage as well, 2 mounts of bottle cage down there. So yeah, it's a pretty stunning bike. A lot of money though, 9,000 euros. You get a power meter and some top end kit. But if you're in the market for a short travel XC bike with modern progressive geometry, this is probably the best option on the market right now.